We are the keepers of the flame, the sacred order. Let the ceremony begin. And today, Faith Blacklights, we take a look at this. Our ceremonial product today comes courtesy of Roger Damps, the Heat Ambassador over at Burn Your Tongue, with locations all along I-15 in Utah, as well as online at www.burnyourtongueonline.com. We raise our flame to Roger in honor. Burn Your Tongue is an official Temple of Flame and is constantly adding new items to bring you the biggest and best selection found anywhere. So head on over for the best chili head shopping experience the world has to offer. And what this is from the Mythos Sauce Company, it is Thor. And Thor is a habanero Fresno hot sauce. Some appropriately, vaguely Viking-ish imagery here. And anytime somebody invokes Scandinavian mythology with a hot sauce, it makes me giggle because certainly there's no habaneros or Fresnos or anything like that really native to that land. So I just find it really, really entertaining. That would not have been a thing in ancient times when the myths were proliferate. And the flavor is supposedly more mighty than the defender of Asgard, which is it's a thing to say, I suppose. That's a thing to say. Not an accurate one, I don't think. But it's a thing to say. Alright, so we start with... Oh boy. Why would you want your ingredient panel this tiny of text? I find this kind of baffling. So we start with distilled vinegar. Then we have Fresno's cider vinegar, habanero, and rounding it out is salt and garlic. Now, I don't think this... Okay, so we can see it's very, very thin. There's particles in it, habaneros and Fresnos most likely. This looks a lot like a Louisiana style with how loose it is. It's very, very watery, very runny. And if that is the style you're going for, you don't need two different vinegars. Like, there's no reason to put apple cider vinegar in this. As soon as you put apple cider vinegar in something, that something is going to take on a lot of characteristics of apple cider vinegar, which, I'll just lay this out here for all of you, is a fad, and it's a bad one. I don't believe people like the taste of it. I find that fundamentally incomprehensible. And the idea of making it into gummies to further the fad with these supposed health benefits, which are not supported by any data, is absurd. But that, I guess, is the times we live in. Thank you, Bragg's, the apple cider company, for infecting the minds of everyone with your very crafty and clever marketing, which is where all this comes from, by the way. That aside, let's go back to the sauce. I can climb on that hobby horse pretty much anytime. I'll just be happy when it's over. When apple cider vinegar is not looked at as any sort of ingredient that should be really near much of anything. So, very nice, vibrant orange color. We've got it's basically orange. We've got some particles in there. I guess you might say there's a very slight reddish tint to it as well, but essentially it is just more or less a vibrant orange. So, and I can smell I can smell the stupid apple cider vinegar. I don't feel like it works well in hot sauce. I have yet to find any instance where that flavor addition I have found to be a favorable one. I'll just put it that way. So, all right, let's get into this. So that's a shame. The Fresnos are one of the better tasting peppers I think out there. And we've got a bit of a back end burn from the habaneros. Very moderate. They give this 3 peppers out of 5, which makes it a 6, which is not accurate. I would call this, at the moment, I'll call it a 1. And I think using it in other places, I think I've gotten up to a 2. I think I left it as a 2 in the written review, a link to which is available in the description below if you care to read it. But I'll say, yeah, 1 to 2 right in there. Sometimes so this is not a stable sauce, and by that I mean it requires fairly regular, if not constant, agitation. So sometimes you won't get that huge cider vinegar hit, right? And when you don't get that, this is actually a pretty solid sauce. But it's, like the little boy, right? When he was good, and when he was bad, he was very bad. And depending on how much you like that flavor, this could range from good to just kind of okay, which is kind of where it is for me. Or it could range from, good to unpalatable. But, I played around. I probably burned about half the bottle playing with this, trying to find where it fits. I use it in macaroni and cheese. I've tried to use it as a Louisiana style sauce. That's where I think this fits the best. Unfortunately, I don't get to enjoy the Fresnos to the extent that I would like because of that vinegar. Fresnos I like a lot. And that flavor is almost good enough to combat this apple cider vinegar. Had they not decided to do that and just kind of rolled with the white vinegar, it would have been fine. This would have been a really solid sauce. Probably more towards Cajun if it would have allowed the garlic to breathe a little bit. There's hints of it here and there in the sauce, not very strong. The main flavoring is really the Fresno, which is what you want. You don't want it to be the habanero unless you're one of those people that finds habanero to be a good tasting pepper, which I am not one of. So, Del Taco, let me preface this. So this is their barbecue brisket fries. It's relatively new as time of the filming of this. I have zero expectations for this, zero hopes. Anytime like a predominantly taco chain tries to venture in to like barbecue, and this one has bacon and ranch and just a bunch of junk on it. I feel like when they foray into that, the results are almost never good. They try to do I want to say like a pulled pork thing not very long ago. That was not fantastic. Maybe this will be better. I don't know. The reason I chose this is because one of the things I do with my Louisiana style sauces is I like to, if a barbecue sauce gets too rich, which is very easy to do, because a lot of them are fairly ketchup based. So if it gets too rich and in too much of that sort of thing, I like to cut it with a little bit of Louisiana style. So I thought, all right, I don't think I've done that on camera yet. There's a lot of it, and you have as many videos as I've done on this channel. It gets a little hard to try to keep finding new stuff every time. So I'm glad they came out with this. But You know, it's honestly one of the things I spend quite a bit of time with is trying to decide what I want to pair the sauce with on camera. Well, you know, it's not awful. There's a ringing endorsement. It's not horrible. I would never order this again, but it is fairly. The barbecue stuff's not great. So let's try to spruce it a little here, and with the richness of the. You know, I'm not even gonna try it. I'm just gonna blow it on here. I'm not super in love with this sauce, so I'm not afraid to use a bunch of it. It's not, you know, and it's kind of in that area for me where I don't dislike it enough to toss it, but it is not one of my favorites. I guess I'll just put it that way. I mean, Mighty Thor taken down by apple cider vinegar. Like, who would have predicted that? Okay. Maybe I shouldn't have agitated it because that was the first hit I got. It was a stupid apple cider vinegar. I just wish it wasn't so prominent in this sauce. This is otherwise an excellent sauce. And I think there's a lot to roll with here. Fresno's and ghost pepper would make an excellent Louisiana style sauce. If you didn't also ruin it with apple cider vinegar. Maybe it's like Diet Coke. People are just used to it now, trying to do it with whatever fad diet wants them to guzzle entire bottles of Bragg's apple cider vinegar. And they're just used to it, but they don't actually like it. It's in a Diet Coke. It's not good tasting, but they're used to it. Or coffee. Coffee's probably a pretty good example of that. Although coffee, I think, does have some limited applications. I have had some beers with coffee in it, espressos and stuff, that haven't been bad. I have seen people work it in with like chocolate and stuff and baked goods. Not horrible. As a liquid to drink, it's trash, but there are, I think, some uses for it. I have had some clever brewer put it in a stout, I think. It wasn't horrible. It was just overly bitter. Like, that's like the least necessary place you'd want to put those in stout. Unless you're trying to mask it. And if it's an ingredient that you have to mask, why have it? Pretty rangy flow of topics on this video, huh? Let's get a little more on there. Like here, that extra little bit of heat. There's strong enough flavors that the apple cider isn't too obtrusive. It's still noticeable. I still wish it wasn't there. But the sauce did improve this not very good fries. This is an unholy mess. And, you know, usually Del Taco, they were one of the holdouts, I think, still giving. That's why it shows up a lot in the videos. I think they give pretty good value for the money. Except for their promo items. Their promo items, this was $6.50. This tray you see here, $6.50. I got some of they have funnel cake fries too. Anytime somebody puts out something stupid like that, I have to get it. I can't resist. I can't stop myself. I'll just get it. They gave me this tiny sleeve for $2.50. I mean, the funnel fries are fine. They tasted good. But, man, they were not $2.50 worth of tasting good. Yeah, I'm going to give this a solid 1. Even with what I've had here, and the spoon and all that, it really isn't built up very well. Alright. I did get some other stuff from Mythos as well. I like the idea of dragging. This is a good approach. This is a good looking label as well. I really don't like what they've done with the ingredient panel. This text is way too small. The copy and the rest of this is fine. So these labels are they're immediately identifiable. They look good. They're clean. Really good label design. I do have other stuff from them, like I was saying. And I think my introduction to them was really kind of a mixed bag. I stopped short of calling it bad. You know, I try to reserve that for, stuff that actually is bad. This just doesn't cater to my particular taste, right? Nothing wrong with this sauce. I'm going to use this bottle. It's fine. I don't like apple cider vinegar. I can still appreciate a sauce as being solid even if I don't like one of the ingredients. That ingredient doesn't make me sick. I just don't like it. But this would have been a better sauce, I feel like, without it. Certainly. But anyway, it's sort of a mixed impression for this being my first go around with Mythos. But I do see some nice potential there, so I'm excited to try the other stuff as well. But as for this one, I think if you're going to try to go into the Cajun, Louisiana style space, don't overcomplicate it. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's a reason that most of the Louisiana style cayenne sauces are, right, 3 or 4 ingredients. Cayenne, vinegar, salt. Sometimes xanthan gum, right? But you don't need that. You just need the 3, right? You need the 3 main ones. You don't need other stuff to make a good quality sauce. When you get into Cajun is where you start seeing garlic and some of the other different spices they throw in there to kind of round it out a little bit. If that's what you're going for, that's fine. But to me, putting in apple cider vinegar almost always makes a distraction. And if I wanted that flavor for me, I would just get a bottle of that crappy Bragg stuff, and I would just dump that in whatever hot sauce I was using at the time. Turns out I don't want that, so I don't do that. And I would really, really rather that. Do you want your vinegar to be obtrusive? Do you want it to show up that forward in the flavor profile, right? Are you selling a vinegar or are you selling a hot sauce? Just some stuff to kick around the old noodle a little bit, you know. Kick it around the old brain, bounce it off the skull walls, you know, that whole thing. But yeah, I mean, it was a mixed bag, but I wouldn't call it a good sauce necessarily because of that, but I certainly wouldn't call it a bad one. I would call it probably more average, leaning towards good at times, because when you get some of those, some of the flavor of the Fresnos, and you get kind of a glimpse of what this sauce could have been, I think there's a good sauce in here. It just doesn't always show up, and then that's probably the best way for me to put it. But there you go, the Mythos Thor hot sauce. Now go forth in peace to serve the flame.